In his speech to the Northern Research Group of MPs, Rishi Sunak trumpeted the dramatic fall in the number of Albanian migrants illegally crossing the English Channel. The Prime Minister says that that's thanks to tough measures, including a new deportation agreement with Albania. Do tough policies work? Is it ethical to disincentivise illegal migration through measures like the Rwanda scheme? I'm joined by Alp Mehmet of Migration Watch and Matthew Stadlen, the writer and broadcaster. Welcome to you both. Alp, first of all, the answer to that question, is it moral, is it ethical to disincentivise migration with these schemes?
Certainly, to disincentivise illegal migration is absolutely moral. I would ask the people of this country, most of whom think this is not only unfair, but it's something that they do not want to happen. That's the only reason, frankly, that the government is making the attempt that it is to actually deal with the problem. And when people come in, they simply declare that they are a particular nationality, that their name, identity is a certain identity. We don't really know, and yet we let them in. Time and again, we discover that they are not who they said they were. Very often, they're not the age that they say they were, and end up committing all sorts of heinous crimes. Isn't it sensible and isn't it moral to try and prevent that sort of thing happening?
Matt Stadlen.
No, I would just say, first of all, on that last point, I mean, that is classic fear-mongering, isn't it, to suggest that asylum seekers end up committing the most horrendous crimes. Of course, some asylum seekers will commit terrible crimes. We've got many Brits who commit terrible crimes. So that's just scaremongering, fear-mongering, and I don't buy it.
Let's roll back to the basic point.
The basic point, I think, is that we have to have a humane system of asylum in this country, Michael, and it also needs to be efficient. And at the moment, because of the grotesque lack of efficiency under this Conservative government, and it stretches back, the Tories have been, as you know, as a former Tory MP, the Tories have been in power now, one way or another, for 13 years. There are tens of thousands of people languishing on this asylum backlog. That's inefficient, it's not fair on the British taxpayer, and it's also not fair on those who are seeking asylum. If you look at the speed of which we are processing these people, it is far slower, 2 or 3 times slower than in Germany and France. We also have obligations to take in our fair share, as I would describe it, of refugees, of asylum seekers, such as my grandparents on my father's side, and we take in many fewer, just for example, than France, I think, and than Germany.
But, Matt, your point that people are languishing, I see that that is a strong point. But if people are languishing, isn't that a good argument for disincentivising illegal migration? There'll be fewer people languishing if there are fewer applicants.
It's a good argument for the Conservatives employing and engaging enough staff in the Home Office, in our immigration system, to make sure that people can be processed properly and quickly. At the moment, I think people can be detained indefinitely. We can't allow that to go on. Instead of schemes that clearly won't work, that clearly aren't financially viable, that are clearly inefficient and are also inhumane, like Rwanda, let's employ enough people to sort out this backlog.
Well, so humane that Germany has just said that they're actually going to follow suit. I won't accept that we don't take people in who are coming here claiming asylum. We've taken 500,000 in since 2015 from all sorts of regular routes. And if you're looking at the regular routes that people do come in from, settlement schemes of one form or another, we take in more and have taken in more than the whole of the EU put together.
We took in people from Hong Kong and from Afghanistan, for example. I want to pick Matt up on, and this is a very delicate matter, on the subject of your grandparents. But it could also be the subject of my father. My father left Spain. Had he not left Spain, he would
also be the subject of me.
Is that right? I didn't know your background.
I'm first generation, Mark.
You're first generation. So here we are. We're all first generation immigrants. But
I'm not first generation.
Oh, all right. But your grandparents. Yeah. You're younger than the two of us.
Thank you, Michael.
The point is, I think your comparison is invalid. You see, I think it's even possibly insulting to the generation of my father and your grandparents in this respect, that they, of course, were facing mortal peril when they left, and we took them in. The people who are in Calais are not facing any mortal peril whatsoever.
So to respond to that, first of all, I think it's a majority, it's around about 64% last year or so, of the people who sought asylum in this country were given some form of protection by the government, which suggests that they had a proper case, a case properly to be considered. Why would they be offered asylum? Precisely because they were fleeing peril. You don't need to compare the horrors of what's been going on in Syria, the horrors of what's happened in Iraq, and don't forget we were part of an invasion of Iraq. You don't need to compare that to the Holocaust that my grandparents were lucky enough to escape to recognise the fact that these people have been in some sort of mortal danger. So yes, my grandparents absolutely needed to seek asylum, but so do many of these people. You might come back and say, well, why can't they stay in Calais? Yes. France is a safe country. We know, don't we, I think, that you'll correct me if I'm wrong, that under the Refugees Convention, under international law, refugees are not obliged to seek asylum in the first safe country to which they apply. If that were the case, you would have untold numbers of people seeking asylum in Greece and other countries neighbouring these conflict zones. That's not fair on the Greeks. It has to be proportionate. We have to. You're a responsible figure. You said earlier in a previous segment you're an establishment figure. You're responsible. You understand our duties, not just to asylum seekers, but to our fellow European countries. We take in fewer refugees than many other countries in Europe. We have to do our bit, if not just for humane reasons, because we want to have the respect of the international community.
Matt makes an interesting point that the government undermines its own position by granting the asylum applications of a majority of these people. Is that because their criteria are wrong, or is it, as Matt suggests, because these people really do have a good claim?
Well, our system is pretty lax. However, one of the reasons why we do grant them some form of refuge, and it's not asylum, I hasten to add, it's because we can't do anything with them. We can't get rid of them. We can't return them anywhere. It's all very well to say they won't claim asylum in Greece, but what about Germany? What about Switzerland? What about France? What about Belgium? All these countries that so many go through in order to get here. So I won't accept that everyone who claims asylum is a genuine asylum seeker. They are not. The vast majority are able-bodied, strong young men with money in their pockets who can pay the smugglers money to get them over here.
What's happened with the Albanian applicants does seem to suggest that policy can work here. I mean, the Albanians were not fleeing one of the conflicts that you've named, and the Albanian applicants have fallen very, very dramatically because it's now possible to repatriate them to Albania. Are you against that? So
just, it's an important point, just very quickly to address. You say, what about Switzerland, what about Germany? I've already said that Germany receive a lot of asylum applications. As far as Albania is concerned, I've been to Albania. My builder was Albanian. He's become a good friend. We did a road trip through Albania and Montenegro and elsewhere, and Kosovo. It's fantastic fun. It's a wonderful country, it's a beautiful country. You go on a holiday there, it's an incredibly poor country. Do people from Albania deserve asylum here? Perhaps not. And in that case, it's absolutely right for our government to do a deal of some sort with Edi Rama, the Prime Minister of Albania, and say, look, come on, this has got to stop. You don't want people leaving. We don't think that the people who are leaving your country deserve asylums, so let's try and work together. And it's absolutely right. Let's be clear about this. We all want to stop those crossings from happening because they are incredibly dangerous. It is right
and criminal,
and it is on the part of the people who are smuggling. Of course, this is a wicked thing that these people do. They are taking advantage of other people's strife and also of the fact that we don't have enough safe routes. But they are criminals. They need to be sought out by the French and by the British. It has become harder since Brexit to do that. And we need to work incredibly closely with French politicians and with the French authorities to make sure that they are doing everything that they can to make sure they're not disincentivised from helping. So
you'd be happy to thwart the illegal migrants?
Yeah, I would. At the same time, that has to be a priority because I'm not going to support criminality. What I want to do is I want to thwart the smugglers. I want to thwart the gangs, and I want to stop the boats because the boats are dangerous. At the same time, we have to open safe routes so that we take our fair share.
We've just got a few
Well,
seconds.
we do take our fair share, more than our fair share. It's just wrong to repeatedly say we don't take our fair share. Don't the Ukrainians, the Hong Kongers, the Afghans, the Syrians, the Iraqis that we've taken in, don't they matter? Aren't they genuine? Should we really, anyone who asks to come in, say, OK, come in, no problem, when already, and let me just say that one of the reasons why the government is actually keen on us to be discussing this as we are is because legal migration is so way out of control.
Indeed.
So they want to focus on this area that they think they're doing something about. They're not. It will continue.
This is a great country and this is a great channel, GB News, because here we've been discussing migration between two first-generation and one second-generation immigrant into this country. Alp Mehmet and Matthew Stalin, thank you very much.